That was really, really difficult time for me. You know, we were at such a low point in our lives. You know, my mother was not working at the time, and we were living in a motel. And no one in my life really knew about that. That was something that I kept to myself. And Cynthia Bradley, my mother called her and let me know that we wouldn't be able to have the transportation and be able to get me back and forth to ballet class every day, so I was going to have to stop. So Cynthia drove me home.
She offered to drive you home.
She offered to drive me home.
And it was the first time somebody had seen where you lived.
Yes.
How did you feel about that?
It was embarrassing. You know, it was like this secret I had held close to me for, you know, almost a year. And you know, it was humiliating. I felt, and it was hard to say goodbye to Cindy as well. I didn't think I'd ever see her again.
Wow.
I thought it was over, and I walked into the room and closed the door. And a couple of minutes later, we heard a knock on the door, and it was Cynthia. She had turned around, come back, asked to talk to my mother, and I remember seeing them from afar, watching them kind of whisper to one another. And my mother turned around and said to me, "Cynthia has invited you to live with her so you can continue training." And it was shocking. It was not at all what I imagined they were talking about or would be a possibility. And my mother let me go that night, and I ended up living with
that
Bradley.
night?
That night.
Wow.
I didn't have a lot of things. I packed up my school backpack and a couple of clothes I had and put them in my backpack and left.
Wow. What a generous thing for your mother to do.
Yeah.
So she put your needs over hers.
Yeah.
Which is,
Yeah.
I'm gonna cry through this whole thing. You don't mind, do you?
It was such a
Incredible.
incredible moment, you know, for these two women to come together and both sacrificing to give me this opportunity, because Cynthia knew what the possibilities were for my career, and she saw American Ballet Theater in my future. That's what she was introducing me to. She had this whole idea and trajectory of what my career was going to be, which, you know, I just kind of went with the flow, but I didn't really believe that it was actually going to happen that way.
So now, are you dancing on stage?
She immediately threw me onto the stage. I was performing the lead in the Nutcracker within 8 months. I was Clara.
Yeah.
By the time I was 15, I was away in San Francisco training with the San Francisco Ballet School on full scholarship. And then the following year, I went to American Ballet Theater.
And you were 15?
I was 15.
Wow.
So that's where my journey began.
So now you're at ABT.
Yes. 2000 was when I officially moved to New York City. You know, I was now a small fish in a big pond.
Yeah, exactly.
Once I got to ABT, maybe in the second year of being there was when I stepped back and realized, like, wow, this is a big company. It's, you know, almost 90 dancers.
Wow.
And I was the only Black woman.
Wow.
And it would be that way for the first decade of my career, that I was the only Black woman in the company. But, you know, there were just kind of small things that would happen, you know, whether it was this tradition of being in the classical ballet world where they have what are called ballet blanc, and these are white ballets. So they're ballets that in the second act, so in Swan Lake, in the second act, you have a stage full of white swans in white tutus and pale pink tights. You have in La Bayadere, the same thing in the second act. A lot of the time, they're these ethereal characters, and everyone's to look uniform. And being the only brown person, I was being told to put white makeup on my skin in order to blend in. And it's really incredible to think that, you know, in 2002, 2001, that still was happening. And these are things that have been happening for generations and generations in opera and television, you know.
And everything.
And I think that was one of the first times that it really hit me and made me question whether or not this was really the career for me. And if
But whether your goal was even attainable.
Or, I mean, when you don't see anyone who looks like you, and you don't necessarily have a support system in a way within the bounds of the ballet world, people that look like you. It just, I was also growing up and maturing and just thinking like, this doesn't really seem like a reality.
And did you at some point think about quitting?
Oh yes, there were several times that I just felt like I didn't think that I could really move up and be in a supportive environment. I remember going home and having a conversation with Olu, my then boyfriend, who is now my husband, and having this, deep conversation about whether this is really what I want. I mean, ABT had been my goal and my dream, the repertoire that they perform, the history and lineage of dancers who have been there, and I couldn't give it up. I just felt deep down inside that when will there be another opportunity for a Black woman to be in this company? I don't know. So I need to take the leap and fight to be here and create change.